I recently launched a video on how you can gain combat rank extremely quickly by killing Thargoid scouts, and in that video I promised you a build guide to the build used, and that's what I'm going to do today. Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to Elite Dangerous with Down to Earth Astronomy. So it's time to have a look at a build guide for how to build a ship that is good for killing Thargoid scouts to gain combat rank. As I said, already done a video on that, so you can go and find that. I'll put it up here in the more info icon if you're interested. So let's quickly go over first the ship selection. Now I've obviously gone with a Crate Mark II here. We will need as many large hard points as we possibly can. Because we're using these turrets, as I explained in the last video, we have to have as many large hardpoints as possible, but it's not just take a Type 10 or something like that, or an Anaconda, and then just slap it on there, because it also has to be positioned correctly, and on the crate, for instance, all the hardpoints are on the top of the ship, which is really nice when it comes to running turrets, so you know if you have stuff above you, the turrets, all of the turrets pretty much, will be able to hit, at least the 3 on top. And also, having a very maneuverable ship is also an important choice, I think, because the scouts are fast, they are maneuverable. So if you want to be able to keep up with them, it's important to have something that can turn quickly. And it's not just, you can't just use the tracking for the turrets because they have a limited tracking speed as well. You actually need to be able to keep with them in the turn. And the more, if you can keep the target in the same position according to your ship, the turrets will have an easier time hitting and you'll do more damage. So having something that can turn quickly is definitely also a bonus point, which is why I've gone with a crate. But let's dive in and let's have a look. I'm both going to go over the build specifically here, but also going to talk about what modules you will need so you can make your own build if you don't fancy this one, or if you want to use something else. First of all, the weapons, of course. AX multi-cannons. You will need AX multi-cannons turrets. They come in fixed, and if you are you're a very good pilot and you're very good with fixed weapons, you can go fixed. They do more damage. Personally, I'm not very good with fixed weapons, so I've gone with turrets. It's a much easier solution for combat pilots that maybe are not that experienced with fixed weapons. Again, when you're selecting your ship, you see here all the turrets are on top. That's definitely a bonus, so keep that in mind when selecting your ship. These can't be engineered, so there's not a lot to talk about here. I have fitted in the 2 medium slots, which is actually on the underside of the ship. I have fitted an extra turret. This turret is actually not being used that much because I would often try to prefer to keep the top turrets active rather than this one. So this one is just in case someone gets like below the ship. This one has a chance to hit there, and in some rare cases I can keep them in a position where all the turrets can hit. If you have spare modules or spare hardpoints, you are pretty much free to use whatever you like to do in this one. On this specific build here, I've gone with a gimbaled multi-cannon, as you can see. This one has overcharged and corrosive shell. Now it seems the corrosive effect does not work on Thargoids, so that's probably not the best choice. And to be honest, the multi-cannon here, it doesn't do a lot of damage anyway compared to what the AX multi-cannons does. And I've tried various other types of weapons, and most of them, they don't really do a whole lot. It is really the AX multi-cannons that is your damage output. So use the spare modules and spare hardpoint slots for utility stuff. It could be a thermal vent beam laser if you have problems overheating. And it could also be a long-range beam or long-range laser, so that you can tag ships at longer range. Because sometimes you would see ships that are almost being, scouts that's almost being killed by the NPC ships in the area, and being able to attack those at long range so you can get in on that kill and get that rank increase for it can be beneficial and might mean that you get a few extra kills per run, making the runs even faster. So you have some options here, and you can pretty much do whatever you like here. If you fancy using some of the other like Guardian stuff that is not affected by the 4 module limit, you can do that. It's really up to you what you like to do here with the spare modules, if you have any on your choice of ship. When it comes to the utility mount, the name of the game, of course, is hit points. Hit points, hit points, hit points. Forget about resistance, just go for hit points. So of course I have shield boosters here, all modified with heavy duty and super capacitor. Again, all the engineering I'm doing here is optional. It just makes your life easier, but it's optional, so keep that in mind. The only other utility mount you will need is a Xeno scanner. I just gone with the one here, and you need this because if you don't have it on, you can't see the hit points on the armor health on the scouts. You don't have to actually scan them the way you have to do with interceptors. On the scouts, this works passively. You will get the information. So just having it fitted is enough, and then you don't need to worry about it. But again, it does take up one utility slot. That's going to take a little bit away from our shield hit points. Core internals, there's not a lot of surprises here. It's pretty standard. If you've seen previous ship building guides, you will have seen I've done like, this is very standard. I've gone with a little change here. I've gone with a armor here. These are very expensive. So again, you don't need them. They just make your life a little bit easier. And with everything else, this is also heavy duty and deep plating to gain more hit points. And that's because armor hit points is actually very important. Shield hit points is not that important if you have to go down on the shield hit points a bit. I would rather lose shield hit points than lose armor hit points on a build like this. So to try really to focus on your armor. So if you have the spare cash, buying a armor and plugging that into the ship is definitely a very good option. Then a power plant, that's definitely way over engineered, as you can see here. And thrusters, again, we're going for maneuverability, so dirty drive drag drives. Frame shift drive with long range to gain more jump range, make it easier to get to and from our target systems. D-rated lightweighted life support, and the same with the D-rated lightweighted sensors. And the power distributor is also set up pretty standard with charge enhanced super conduit. So again, very standard core internal loadout. The only interesting thing is the addition of armor, which I do recommend if you have the spare cash. Otherwise, that's something you can upgrade down the road. When we move over to the optional internals, it's quite, as I said, name of the game here is hit points. We don't really need a whole lot. I put on a shield. I mean, I have the power. I could have put on a prismatic shield. I didn't have anyone lying around, but I did have a 6A that was already engineered, and was already engineered with reinforced high cap, which is exactly what we want to get as many hit points as possible. So I thought, oh well, I'll just use this instead. If you have access to prismatics, it's a good idea to put those on. I wouldn't recommend bi-weave. You can go bi-weave, but I would probably recommend you go prismatics, or just normal shield generators, whatever you have. And the rest here is hull reinforcements, and all of the hull reinforcements here are modified with heavy duty deep plating to gain, again, more hit points. If you can get the Guardian ones, they have 10% caustic resistance, and they give a little bit less absolute hit points. So, but overall, I think you can get slightly more hit points, like caustic hit points, out of the ship if you go with some of the Guardian modules, or at least some of the lower ones. If you would change out this, like if I could change this out, remember if I change the 2-1 out here for a Guardian, yes, I would have less hit point, but I would get 10% caustic resistant. That would increase the hit points, the effective hit points of all of these other hull reinforcement plates, including the armor in here as well. So having one can help. The meta alloy, what's the name of them? There's the human ones, meta alloy reinforced or something like that. I can't remember. That gives, I think it's 5%. I don't think though they are worth it. I've tried several combinations and I can't really find a good way to where they are really worth it. But the Guardian ones, they seem to be an option if you have access to them. They can definitely be a good choice to go with those. And you could also go full Guardian if you want. But again, name of the game here is get as much hull on the ship as you possibly can. And that's actually all there is to the build here. I'll just quickly show you the stats of the ship that I'm using here. So you can see shield health 1600, which is way overkill. Again, shields can drop if you get attacked by an interceptor, but as I mentioned in the video, you really shouldn't be if you're careful. So shield health here, I think without being attacked by interceptors, I've never lost even 1 ring of shield. So that's why, as I said, I would rather use shield hit points than armor hit points. But as you would note, I've not fitted a decontamination limpet controller, and that's because I'm able to get enough hit points. These 5,000 hit points means that even though I would be under the caustic effect for, let's say, half an hour, which a trip normally takes, it will only be able to eat through maybe half of my armor hit points. So it doesn't really matter that I don't have a decontamination limpet controller. And it has the added effect as well, it's actually quite funny, that if you just say, I'm just going to have a huge slab of hit points, I'm not going to care about getting rid of the corrosive effect, then suddenly you don't have to be afraid of caustic missiles, and when you kill the scout, they also send out a small cloud. If you fly through that, you will also get caustic effect. You don't have to worry about that, you just fly straight through it, you just face tank the caustic missiles, because we have enough hit points, it doesn't matter. And if it suddenly begins to get critical, if you suddenly begin to get down to, let's say, less than 25% hit points, or getting down close to 10, what you just do is you just run away, and you overheat your ship, put it into silent running, overheat the ship, and it will, I think when you reach about 180%, it will burn off the caustic effect on its own. Then you disable your silent running, and your ship is all good. You will take some module damage, but if it's about saving your ship, that should definitely do it. So I don't really see the decontamination limpets being they're not mandatory. You can fit them if you have less hit points and you're afraid of getting eaten up by the caustic effect, but again, they are not mandatory. And remember, it will take up 2 internal slots, one for the limpet controller and one for the cargo hold to hold the limpets. So it is a lot of armor that you lose, and you might actually be better off getting that extra armor than just face tanking everything. It just will make your life a lot easier. If you found this video useful, remember that I have a link for my Patreon page in the description, where you can go down, you can support the channel, and you also have the option to get your name listed at the end credit of every video. But I hope you liked the video. Remember to give it a like if you did, and if you haven't subscribed already, please do that as well. And until next time, I will see you guys in space.